Peter Tesch is a former Australian ambassador to Russia and joins us now. Peter, thank you for your time. The pressure is on Putin here. Trump says he'll give Moscow up to 12 days to agree to a ceasefire. But then what?
Well, it depends very much, I think, on exactly what the president has in mind by way of sanctions. He's talked about sanctions on Russia. He's talked about potentially secondary sanctions on the countries that are colluding with Russia in enabling it to continue Putin's war of choice against Ukraine by circumventing Western sanctions that have been imposed to date. But there is no doubt that this is an important signal from Donald Trump that he is losing patience with Putin's delaying tactics.
And you're right to point out that uncertainty, because to clarify for our audience, it was a surprise announcement there, of course. Trump said he'd confirm the exact number soon in terms of days until deadline. But if those secondary sanctions are introduced on Russia's trading partners, who are the big ones here, and what would or could they do following that?
Well, the big loophole that Putin has been exploiting to date, of course, has been in oil trade. And we've seen how they're using the fleet of so-called shadow tankers, the grey fleet, unregistered, sometimes quite derelict tankers, to move oil around, operating through third countries as transit hubs, not just for oil, but the inwards flow other essential supplies and material and technological support for his war of choice against Ukraine. So there'd be countries, I would think, like India, like China, perhaps some of the Central Asian states that would certainly be front and centre in the US administration's thinking. The question, of course, is how swiftly and how comprehensively will any additional measures be applied? Because telegraphing sanctions in the past has given Russia opportunity to find workarounds. So it's a matter of moving swiftly across a broad range of areas to close loopholes and to really make it much harder for Putin to prosecute this war.
And if those trading nations do choose to shun Russian exports, what could it mean for Russia and its war effort?
Well, I think it's premature to say that the Russian economy is on the brink of collapse, but there is no doubt it is overheating, it is feeling the strain, and indeed, as the war of attrition grinds on, the long-term consequences for the Russian economy mount. But I think Mr. Putin believes that he's going to be able to keep outweighting the West. I think he has miscalculated from the outset in launching this war, in undervaluing the likely resolve of Ukraine and indeed, of course, the coherence of the West writ large to resist his brutal war. And I think the question now will be, at what point can he actually bring about some respite in the fighting, because he has not at any point resiled from his stated goals to address what he calls the root causes of the war. And ultimately, that amounts to a rollback to pre-1991 security circumstances in Europe, essentially the rollback of NATO and the reduction of the US presence, if not its complete withdrawal. These are untenable demands in the eyes of most, and it'll be a question to see whether Mr. Putin will vary that position and how far Donald Trump is actually prepared to go to pressure the Kremlin.
Will Putin be worried about this development, do you think?
Well, I think Putin feels he has the measure of the West. He's long derided it as irresolute, beset by moral turpitude, lacking the resolve, the ticker, to use an Australianism, to see through this war. And I think that's been a grave miscalculation. I think he will be concerned if indeed there is now a sign that the man who to date has been gushingly accommodating of the Kremlin, Donald Trump, exempting Russia from his initial round of tariffs that he applied on allies and partners around the world, but strangely not on North Korea or on Russia. This will be a sign, and we can expect the Kremlin's bluster to increase and threats of escalation to be employed. But I think Putin will be struggling to work out at what point will the next course change emerge from Washington. Can he outweight Trump again at this time? Can he offer blandishments that will make Trump think a deal can yet be done? I don't think Donald Trump likes to be seen as arguing and negotiating from a position of weakness, and I think this has been a miscalculation by Trump to goad him into this action. I beg your pardon, by Putin to goad Trump into this action.